Hallelujah. Blessed be Jehovah, our King, who has allowed us to return once again. Hoping and praying those that have not arrived at the Most High will cross and get here safely. And those that can't make it out today, that the Most High be with them wherever they're at. That the Most High will keep us all healthy, safe, and keep all harm and danger away from us. This time I'll ask everyone to please rise as we will begin by singing songs there at Shabbat. Song from the start of Shabbat day. Hallelujah. Did Shabbat, Tameh Akari, Did Shabbat, Tameh Akari, Did Shabbat, Tameh Akari,
Most High, great King, our God and our Father, we first and foremost thank you for our very lives, great King. We thank you for rising us up this morning, Most High. We thank you for another holy Shabbat day, great King. We thank you for the week past, Most High, however it may have went, whatever bumps and bruises we may have took, we made it through, Father. For this, we thank you, great King. Father, we ask that you be with us, guide us, protect us. Show us mercy, Most High. Be with those out there, Most High, who know not of you, Most High. Be with those who are about to celebrate this folly day, Most High. Most High, we ask to keep us safe during this time of booming and blowing up stuff, Father. We ask that you beautify our family. Beautify our elders, Most High. Beautify the officers here and the officers abroad who try to teach your word daily, Most High. Be with our children, great King. Watch over them. Keep them safe, Most High. Be with their minds. Guide them in the right way, Most High. Make them not to get caught up in this foolishness. Most High, we thank you for food, for clothing, for shelter, for the monetary things you've given us, Most High, for keeping sickness and disease away from us, Most High. We ask that you heal those, Father, who may be sick, if it be thy will, Most High. Father, there's so much to thank you for, so much to be grateful for. Most High, we ask that you be with those who are in mourning, Most High. We ask that you be with my family, Most High, as we have lost our eldest cousin, Most High. But we celebrate We celebrate, Most High, the 85 years that you've given her, Father. We ask that you be with my cousins as they mourn, Father. Watch over them. Great King, again, there's so much to ask you for, to be grateful for, to thank you for. Be with our families here and abroad, Most High, that's calling upon your name, Most High. I ask that you be with my Ima, be with Ima Muna, be with Ima Olive, be with all the Imas, Most High, that I can't even name right now, that we love and we care for. Have mercy on us, guide us, protect us. I ask that you be with my Isha, if it be thy will, be with my children, my grandchildren. Hallelujah.
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 Amen.
Amen. Oh, Shema Yisrael, Yahovah Elohim, Yahovah Elohim, Yahovah Elohim, oh, Shema Yisrael, Yahovah Elohim, Elohim, Yahovah They shall be fat and flourishing, to show that your hold is upright. He is our rock, and there is no righteousness in him. Hallelujah. We go into the 125th Psalm, Psalm 125. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. They that trust in Jehovah shall be as Mount Zion, which cannot be removed but not forever. As the mountains surrounded about Jerusalem, so is Jehovah round about his people, from henceforth even forever. For the rod of the wicked shall not rest upon the lot of the righteous, lest the righteous put forth their hands unto iniquity. Do good your homes to those that be good, and to them that are upright in their hearts. But as such as turn aside to their crooked ways, your homes shall lead them forth to the workers of iniquity. But peace shall be upon Yisrael. Hallelujah. We go into the book of Deuteronomy, starting from chapter 6, verse 4. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh Echad. Hear, Yisrael, Yahweh our God, Yahweh is one. And thou shalt love Yahweh thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words shall I command thee this day shall be in thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk with them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hands, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house, and upon thy gates. And it shall be when Jehovah thy God shall have brought thee into the land, which he swore to thy fathers, to Abraham, to Yeftahk, and to Yaakov, to give thee great and goodly cities which thou buildest not, and houses full of all good things which thou fillest not, wells big which thou diggest not, vineyards and olive trees which thou plantest not. When thou shalt leave them be full, then beware lest thou forget Jehovah, who brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt fear Jehovah thy God and serve him, and shalt swear by his name. Ye shall not go after other gods or the gods of the people that are round about you. For Jehovah thy God is a jealous God amongst you, lest the anger of Jehovah thy God be kindled against thee, and he destroy thee from the face of the earth. Hallelujah. Therefore we honor and extol the God of our fathers, for restoring us back to our heritage, even here in the lands of our captivity. We thank thee and praise thee with all our might, and we say, blessed is the name of Jehovah our God forevermore. Amen. Let us sing the Shema. Shema, 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 Shema. Yahovah Elohim, Shema Yisrael, Yahovah Echad. Hallelujah. And Jehovah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Yisrael, saying, Verily shall keep my Shabbat, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am Jehovah who sanctify you. Ye shall keep the Shabbat therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that profaneth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever do any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day is the Shabbat of solemn rest, holy to Jehovah. Whosoever doeth any work in the Shabbat day, he shall surely be put to death. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Shabbat, to observe the Shabbat throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever, that heaven and the earth will finish, and all the hosts of them. And on the 7th day Yah finished his work which he had made. And Yah blessed the 7th day and hallowed it, because that in it he rested from all his works, which God in creating had made. Hallelujah. Please repeat after me. If thou turn away thy foot because of the Shabbat.
If thou turn away thy foot because of the Shabbat.
From pursuing thy business on my holy day.
From pursuing thy business on my holy day.
And call the Shabbat a delight.
And call the Shabbat delight.
And the holy of Jehovah honor.
And the holy of Jehovah honor.
And shall honor it.
And shall honor it.
Not doing thy wanted ways.
Not doing thy wanted ways.
Nor pursuing thy business.
Nor pursuing thy business.
Nor speaking thereof.
Nor speaking thereof.
Then should thou delight thyself in Jehovah.
Then should thou delight thyself in Jehovah.
And I'll make thee to ride upon the high places of the earth.
And I will make thee to ride upon the high places of the
And
earth.
I'll feed thee with the heritage of Yaakov thy father.
And I will feed thee with the heritage of Yaakov thy father.
For the mouth of Jehovah has spoken.
For the mouth of Jehovah has spoken.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
With love for thee, O Jehovah our God. We have been to thy great house to welcome the Shabbat day, which invites us to enjoy the blessings of rest and peace. Thou art near to us in this place, and wherever we call upon thee, thou wilt come to us and bless us. On this Shabbat day, when we look back upon this past week and reflect earnestly upon the way we have used the fleeting moments. Be with us in the coming week that we may be faithful to all our duties. Make us glad that there is so much joy in this house. May we ever be eager to spread around the light of happiness, of love, and goodwill. May this day bring peace to our hearts and joy to our souls. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Let us sing the Shema. Shema, 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 Shema. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children, unto the third and to the fourth generation. Therefore we serve only you, Yahweh, because your glory endures forever. We will love you and serve you, and show reverence unto thy most holy name. Who's like unto the King of glory? Who's like unto our God who fights the battles of his people, Yisrael? He who smites nations for us and subdues our enemies before our eyes. Therefore we honor and praise his holy name. Shout for joy, all you holy ones to the Most High. For our King will deliver us if we keep his laws and commandments. For our King will save us if we serve him with all our souls. For our King will deliver us if we do all that he commanded Moshe. For our King will save us if we praise him with all our might. For our King is the God of glory. Yahweh, Yahweh Sabaoth is his name. So make a joyful noise, O chief men, and sing aloud, you prince of Israel. Lord of Leon, sing with joy. Let all the hosts of Israel clap their hands. For the King of glory is King. From everlasting to everlasting. Thou art God. Hallelujah. We give glory to the mighty King of the universe, Yehovah. We give glory to his high and holy name, for he is King, and besides him there is no other. I give glory to this mighty King for my life, the life of all my loved ones, my family, my yellow Dean. Thank you, Yehovah God, for food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You may be seated. This mighty King is highly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. There is no one to be compared to this King. Amen. And unto him and him alone do we give glory. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I'm really appreciative of the understanding that I've gotten from this mighty King. Amen. And we must not take it for granted. Right. We must understand that if we're here, it's because the Most High God loved us. That's right. Because he made it available for us to be able to get this wisdom and this understanding. Many people in the earth don't have this understanding. A lot of people right now are getting ready for their barbecue. Yeah. You know, it's they get ready to go barbecue with, although there's a pandemic and there's things going around, people, you know, they still doing what they do. Yeah. They're going to go out there barbecue. They're going to go out there and celebrate a day that really had nothing to do with us. At all. Especially us, black, Latinos, or whatever you want to call us. It really had nothing to do with us. When the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, guess where we were? And all the Americas. No colony in the Americas. Brazil, nowhere. Anybody have been given freedom. They talk about they were free men here and there, whatever. But as a whole, as a people, we were brought here to serve. Okay. We wasn't even counted as a whole person. No. The only reason that even came into play is because the people, the slave masters that lived in the South, that had all them slaves working on them cotton fields, they wanted more money from the government. So they said, we got all these slaves down here, they got to be counted as something. So what they made is 3/5 of a person. Wow. Wow, 3/5. Yeah. Because we were looked at as cargo, yes, animals, a possession, yeah, less than a man. When the Declaration of Independence was signed, I will venture to say that they were still hanging us on trees. That's right. They was ripping us apart. That's right. They was whipping us. They was raping our women. So what is there to celebrate?
You ain't lying.
You had slaves that went on the British side so that they could fight for their freedom.
Yeah.
They fought on the British side.
Yeah.
And when the war was over, the British gave them stay in Canada and in some of the West Indies.
Yeah. Teach that.
Some of them even went back to Africa just to fight for their freedom.
Right.
And the rockets red glare. The bombs bursting in air.
Come on.
We were still slaves.
We had that song too.
Yeah, and that song too. What was it, the third stanza? The stanza that we never hear.
Right.
But our people are the ones that are called out to sing the national anthem. And sing it better than anybody. No one sung it better than Whitney Houston now. She tore the house down. Marvin Gaye put a little soul to it. You got me home. Can't you see? That's what Marvin Gaye did.
Yeah.
But if you read the third stanza of that song, you would understand what they felt about it. Or about us.
Yes.
What was the name of that monkey that wrote it? Francis, what is it? Yeah. So, what is there to celebrate? They busting off all these firecrackers and fireworks and like you celebrating a day where they didn't even look at you as a person. You were still in the barns, you were still picking cotton.
Exactly.
And the only reason they gave you a day off is because it was their day off. And they indoctrinated us with a slave religion. I will say it again. Christianity is a slave religion. Any religion that teaches you that when someone beats you, to continue to let them beat you, it's a slave religion. The Most High God didn't make us to turn the other cheek. The Most High God said, even if you have a servant and you knock his tooth out, they says, for his tooth's sake, you let him go. It said, you have a servant and you knock his eye out, for his eye's sake, you let him go. It said, if a servant escapes, that's what the book said. If a servant escapes and makes it to you safely, they say you shall not bring him back to the master. He said, why? Because perhaps the Most High God delivered him from a bad situation. Because God, when he told us that we shall have workers, really, that's what we had, workers. Unless we went to war and we brought servants back. But when we had workers, we wasn't supposed to treat them callously.
No.
But this people, it's a heartless people. I read something that my brother Chief Naftali Ben Dahn wrote after the Reconstruction period.
Yeah.
The people in Wilmington, North Carolina, the white folks in Wilmington, North Carolina made a vow. Because after that 10-year period of Reconstruction, right? The 10-year period of Reconstruction, we learned how to read. We learned how to pull ourselves by the bootstrap, as they say. But there's a lot more to that pulling yourself by the bootstrap. Right? We became senators, congressmen, governors, whatever, in our towns. They vowed to themselves that they will never let a nigger be over them again, the people in the South. They made a treaty, a pact amongst themselves that they would never let that happen. And they began to indoctrinate their people about the South and how great the Confederate Army was. Talk about General Robert Lee whatever his name is. Talk about him as if he was such a great person. He wanted to keep you enslaved.
Yes. Right.
See, the symbolism doesn't really matter to me because when the Confederate flag came about, they wanted to keep us slaves, right? Because it was about their bottom line, their money. You was messing with their money. Exactly. But when the American flag was created, we were still slaves. Exactly. So what are we standing under? Two flags that still have the same effect.
Yeah.
So you want to get rid of the bars and stripes, get rid of the other flag too. Because we were still slaves. So the symbolism doesn't really matter to me. If you want to take the flag out of the speedways and all that, that surprised me. Because at least, I said to myself, at least give them they race cars. Leave them alone in their race cars.
Yeah.
I didn't care about that. They want them to start turning stuff around. But what does it mean? The symbolism, taking down statues, I get it. I understand. But that's not what I want. Give me my reparations. Give me mine. Even when we left Egypt, what the Most High God said? He said, go get yours. So before you leave out of here, go get yours. Go get your silver, your gold from your neighbors. Take it off their necks. Put it around yours. Take their earrings. Nose jewels. And the Egyptians had nice, pure gold. We took all that. I don't care about your symbols. If you want to be the Confederate patriot, you could be that. Just give me mine. Give me mine that my foreparents fought for and worked for in your plantations that still exist to this day. Those plantations still exist. And those names became great. And those families became great off the back of black people. Talk to me. Wherever you at, if you in Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, Panama, Brazil, all these places, all those families that became great and rich became rich and great off the backs of slaves. So what independence are we celebrating? Talk to me. Kids is out there blowing off their hands. Blowing off their hands. It's ridiculous. I mean, when I was younger, the M80 was the biggest thing we had.
Yep, trash can.
We put them in telephones. You know, we did illegal stuff, some of us, to get the change out of it. I repented for that. Don't judge me on that. We've done that. But now they got half a stick of dynamite. What is the sense of having half a stick of dynamite, things that are potent enough like dynamites to blow off? You got a football player, used to play with the New York Giants, Jason Pierre-Paul. Look him up, Google him. He had one of those things in his hand. Sometimes the fuse is short and it blows. So if you got it in your hand, it's going to blow your hand off. People have actually blown their hands off. He mangled his hand. Missing fingers. Remember, his hand was split open. He had to surgically put it back together and he lost fingers.
Contract here.
This is what we're doing a contract here.
That's right.
Thank you, my brother. I forgot about that. So he cost himself so much more money because of not thinking. And he will tell you himself today, don't play with fireworks. But all night we hear them going off. Boom! I thought after, they said it was for Juneteenth. But after Juneteenth, it intensified more. Last night I heard them going boom, 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 boom. So they said that all these places in Pennsylvania and in Jersey, they got an overstock of them. So they selling them dirt cheap. So people grabbing them, bringing them back into the hood, and grandma can't sleep, auntie can't sleep, mom can't sleep, babies can't sleep. On top of a pandemic, now we need to hear all the noise. And the police ain't doing their job. They taking off. They say, you take money from us, we take it off.
Going too far.
They said, we ain't doing no work.
No chokehold, no work.
No chokehold, no work. Wow. So we, only thing we have to be grateful to is the Most High God. That we are not caught up in this stuff. How can you celebrate the independence of a place that had you enslaved? Think about that. Think about that mentality. I'm proud to be an American. Think about that mentality. I'm not talking hate speech, but give us ours. You want us to be great Americans? Give us ours. I'll be the greatest American you want me to be. Worried about some kind? I ain't worried about no Confederate flag, because you can't remove that Confederacy out their heart.
No.
That's their history. That's what they feel great. I mean, this is the only country that celebrates rebellion, because that's what the Confederacy was, a rebellion against the Union. The Union was the United States of America. The Confederacy was they try to separate themselves from the Union, which is in some places called treason. And Robert E. Lee would have been hung. So, I mean, this is the only place that celebrates that. So, I mean, you can keep your bars and stripes, you can keep your monuments, you can keep all that stuff. Just give us ours. Give us ours for the work that we did here. And if you want to give us some land and separate it, I'm good with that too. I'm good with that too. But don't talk to me about certain things and celebrating and we're all patriotic when you don't want to revisit the history of this place. Before we move forward, we have to talk about that. Right. We have to talk about the Jackson plantation. We have to talk about the Williams plantation. We have to talk about, we have to look, because y'all kept records. Yeah. You kept records of all your slaves. You still have them. All your slaves, descendants of the slaves, and how much money you made. And let's prorate it to today's rate. And then let's see how much money you got in the bank. Right? And let's start giving some of that money out. That's when we could sit down and talk, and then that's when I'll be patriotic. I'll wave the American flag as hard as you do. I'm proud to, like Don King, I'm proud to be an American. With 2 flags. It's not hate talk, it's reality. You see, we having the conversation. They want to have the conversations now, but these are conversations that have been circulating within our communities for what? Decades. Yeah. We know about this. So let's sit down and have an open-ended conversation, and let's talk truth. Open up the books. That's the only way we can talk truth. Let's open up the books, and let's see what's owed to us. And then we can move forward. Hallelujah. We give glory unto the Most High King. I'm grateful to this mighty King for my life, for the life of Kobe Yisrael throughout the 4 corners of the earth. I pray that the Most High King will continue to be with us, guide us, and protect us. With that, we'll move straight ahead, and we'll call up the first teacher, who will teach the Martyrs portion, which is the Haftarah portion, for the portion Balak. That will be our brother Moreh Yeftahk. No, someone start calling. Hallelujah. Let's read.
First and foremost, just want to offer all honors, praises, respect, acknowledgement, and thanks unto the great King of the universe, to the God of our fathers, to the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Yaakov. Thank Him for all things and thank Him for everything. I'm going to tell my forefathers, Shabbat, Shalom, and Kol.
Shabbat, Shalom, and God.
Please be seated. Thanking the Most High God for life. Thanking Him for strength. Thanking Him for food. Thanking Him for clothing. And thanking Him for shelter. Thanking the Most High God for He is good and His mercy endures forever.
Amen.
Thanking the Most High God for the life of my teacher, Moreh in Yisrael.
Amen.
We're going to go into the Martyrs portion, but before we do, I just want to kind of touch on a couple of things that Chief Uziel talked about. I know a lot of times when people listen to us, because we speak in a manner of, we speak from a point of view and purview of emotion, because this is something that's very strong and near and dear to all of us.
That's right.
So I know a lot of times what happens is when we speak from that point of view of emotion, a lot of times we're looked at and that the words which we speak somewhat gets deflected, and the major issue becomes, well, why do you speak like that? Or why are you so upset? Or why are you so angry? And he's speaking and it sounds like hate talk and all those different things. So I want to just kind of touch on some of the emotional talk that Chief Uzziel touched on and just add a little bit of a historical aspect to it. Chief Uzziel said that Christianity was a religion that was not something that we had before we got here. If you look at some of the Virginia slave codes back in the 1700s, one of the things that you'll see, late 1600s, early 1700s, one of the things that you'll see is that Christianity was a way for us to avoid slavery. Because the rules were, if the slaves could prove that they were Christians before they got here, then, if the slaves were Christians, then you couldn't enslave a Christian, and therefore you couldn't have Africans as slaves. So what all of the slaves started to do is they all started to conform to Christianity, because the rule was, the law was, you can't enslave Christians. So then the rules changed, as they normally do, which is they changed to say, well, you would have had to have been a Christian before you got here, which means that the African slaves who came here did not fit that bill because they were not Christians before they got here. Just the historical aspect for you to look it up. Speaking about Independence Day and the 4th of July and July 4th, 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was written, the census started to take place in 1790. However, they have an estimated count that there were approximately 2.5 million people under U.S. jurisdiction at the time that the Declaration of Independence was written in 1776. Of those 2.5 million people, 700,000 of those were slaves, which meant before July 4th, 1776, and after July 4th, 1776, 30% of the people were still slaves. So the Declaration of Independence actually only represented about 70% of the people, and that number actually comes down if you count the Native Americans who were here as well. So when Chief Uzziel goes in, he begins to speak about why we're celebrating Independence Day, you just have to kind of look and understand the perspective that we're coming from, which is Independence Day, while it redeemed the 13 colonies in Kentucky and a couple of other places that they had, it did not redeem you and me. Which is okay. Because I know that there's a God in heaven who is going to come and he is going to redeem those who America forgot or who America neglected. So our trust and our strength and our faith comes in that God of heaven who provides redemption for all, and not those who provide redemption for a select few.
Amen.
So the Mount Tears portion is going to be found in the book of Micah, beginning in the 5th chapter and the 6th verse. Before we start, these last couple of weeks have actually been really inspiring for me. It's been really informative for me. And based on the things that I've been seeing over the last couple of weeks and looking at this portion, it shows just how true God is. It shows how true God's word is. And one of the things that, before we get into this portion, one of the things that I want us to know is, I know a lot of times we speak and we say black people. And we speak in reference to black people. I want you to understand that when we speak in reference to black people, when we speak in reference to God's people, we're talking about black people. We're talking about Hispanic people. We're talking about Latino people. We're talking about all of those people who came over those shores over to the Americas. We're talking about all of those people who came over the shores and stayed on the boat and went from America and went over to those different ports in Europe. When we're talking about blacks, we're talking about all of those, because when we're talking about slavery, slavery included all of those. So don't allow them to divide us to say, yeah, see, they're talking about blacks and not Hispanics. We're talking about everybody. See, they're talking about men and women. They're not women. We're talking about everybody. We're talking about everybody that's represented in that, those who came through that middle passage and came to these different places who were stolen from the African continent. We're talking about everybody.
We're in the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 6. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many peoples, as dew from Yahweh, as showers upon the grass.
Okay, so hold on. I want us to understand that when they speak about the remnant of Jacob, a lot of times we, as God's people who have an understanding of God and have that understanding that we're Israel, we read things like this and we think that this remnant of Jacob is only talking about those who know God. Not so. When God is saying, and I'm going to show you how, when God is saying the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of all people, and he's going to talk about the effect and the impact of those people are going to have, you're going to see people who are having that impact in these days and times are people who know God, who don't know God as we know it, but they're having the impact that God has allowed them to have with the understanding that they have. Does that make sense? I was on a call a couple of days ago, and there were over 200 clergy leaders on the call. There were Christian pastors. There were Muslim imams. There were a variety of different denominations and religious sects that were on that call. And the point of the call was to address the gun violence that's happening in our communities. And it didn't matter which God that they called on. It didn't matter who the religious or spiritual path that they walked. The thing that made the difference was God, the true God, put it in them to have a love for their people enough that they started to say things like, you know what? We need to stop with this thing that we have our service on whatever day we hold our service and then we leave. But what we actually in fact need to do is after we hold our services, we need to start to go out into the communities to talk to those people to find out what it is that they need.
Amen.
Why is this violence happening?
Yeah.
Why do you feel the need to do this? If that's not God's work, I don't know what is. You can call them what you want. You can call them a Christian, you can call them a Muslim. If that's not God's work, I don't know what is. And one of the pastors said that he spoke to a young man. And this is to show you how this whole disenfranchisement issue, this whole systematic issue, this whole systemic issue, how it all comes full circle. Because the pastor said he went out and he spoke to the brothers on the corner and he said, listen, you have these guns and the only people who you're killing is your people. Why don't you give us those guns? And his response was, he said, the guy on the corner, the response was, if I give you this gun, are you going to give me a job? So now, what does that mean? That means there's a lot of work for us to do. And guess what? It's enough work for everybody to do where we all don't need to focus on the same thing. Am I right or wrong?
That's right.
Because guess what? If you feel like your job is to stand and teach, guess what? You do that.
That's right.
And if you feel like your job is to go out on the street and try to pull souls and try to gain an understanding of the things that they're going through, guess what? You do that.
Do that.
And if you feel like your job is within corporate America to try to change the system to where you can provide jobs and resources and other things to give our people an actual alternative, if that's what you feel like your job is, guess what? You do that. And if everybody fulfills the purpose that we feel God made for us, then maybe we'll start to make progress rather than all of us trying to do the same thing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So it starts off and it says, and the remnant of Yaakov shall be in the midst of many peoples, as the dew from Yahweh, as the showers upon the grass. So now, what does that mean? So we look at ourselves today, and absolutely, in fact, the remnant of Jacob are in the midst of all people. The remnant of Jacob is in the midst of all nations, as the dew from Yahweh, and as the showers on the grass. What does that mean? The dew that comes from God is the moisture that nourishes the plants and allows them to grow. The showers that come from God is the moisture and the nourishment that goes to the flowers that allows them to grow so that food can grow so that we can eat. You with me so far?
Yeah.
So now, when he says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people, as the dew from Yahweh, as the showers from the grass, what he's talking about is God's people in the midst of all of these different people, providing nourishment, providing resources, providing the things that people need in order to survive. You with me so far? I hope I didn't go too far. Please, keep reading.
That are not looked for from man, nor awaited at the hands of the sons of
And
men.
that's the best part of it, because it says that that dew, that nourishment, that providing that we're giving, is not looked for from man, nor is it waited for by anybody. So guess what? If we feel like we can't get ourselves together in order to provide the proper programs that people out in the street need, guess what? That nourishment is not coming from you. Because if you feel like you have time to waste fighting and arguing and bickering when people need to eat, guess what? That nourishment is not meant to come from you. But the good thing about God is is making sure that that nourishment is coming regardless to whether God's people, bring it or not. And that's what I'm trying to say. The problem here is there are people right now that are all over, and they're speaking about uplifting God's people. You know what I saw the other day? I saw somebody else say, you know what? The only difference between a Puerto Rican and a Haitian and a Dominican and an American was just a stop on the boat. That didn't come from a person who knew themselves to be Israel.
Okay.
Right.
That came from one of the remnant of Yaakov that God allowed to be the dew. Because God is bringing forth the information that's going to cause us to survive, whether it comes from Israelites that know God or not.
His message.
Because it's God's message. And God's message waits for no one. Excuse me, don't laugh about that. It waits for no one.
That's right.
So if you can't get it together, if we can't get it together in order to bring that message, guess what? We lose our opportunity to bring the message, but God's going to ensure that the message is brought.
That's right.
And in essence, isn't that the only thing that matters?
Absolutely.
Because the fact that whether I bring it or whether someone else brings it, it doesn't matter who stands up and brings the message. Why? Because the only shine goes to God.
That's right.
The only shine goes to God. Come on.
And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the nations in the midst of many peoples, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who, if he go through, treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and there is none to deliver.
And that's exactly what's happening as well. Because it says, and the remnant of Jacob, those same people who may not know God as we know God, are out there and they're protesting. Those same people are out there and they're speaking to officials and they're galvanizing and they're inspiring people. It says, as a lion amongst the beasts in the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep. They're out there, and because of their vigilance, because of their emotion, because of how much they care, because of the compassion that they have to ensure that God's people understand the plight and that God's people get the right of redemption that we're supposed to get. Guess what? Right now, the government can't say anything. So why is it now? Why now? Why now all of a sudden can police officers get arrested?
Yeah.
Why now? Why now are we talking about banning chokeholds which weren't legal in the first place? Why now? Why now is the NFL ready to accept a stance against the Star Spangled Banner when they weren't 2 years ago?
Just 2 years.
Why now?
Yeah.
Because the remnant of Jacob is out amongst the nation, and God is allowing his word to go forth. That's why now. That's why now, like Chief Uziel said, that's why now we can talk about it, and it's a major topic of conversation. That's why now. And I say it again, God caused all of this in a time where there was nothing for you to be distracted from anything else.
That's right.
No basketball,
That's right.
no baseball,
That's right.
no golf,
Right.
no tennis. Come on.
Let thy hand be lifted up above thine adversaries, and let all thy enemies be cut off. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Jehovah.
Hold on, before you go on, because that's the point. When you speak God's word, whether you know you're speaking God's word or not, when you speak God's word, automatically your hand is going to be lifted up amongst your adversaries, and your enemies are going to be cut off, because nothing can stand in the way of truth when truth comes from God. Nothing can stand in the way of that. Come on.
And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Jehovah, that I will cut off thy horses out of the midst of thee, and will destroy thy chariots, and I will cut off the cities of thy land, and will throw down all thy strongholds, and I will cut off witchcrafts out of thy hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers, and I will cut off thy graven images and thy pillars out of the midst of thee, and thou shalt no more worship the work of thy hands, and I will pluck up thy asherim out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy enemies.
And what they're doing is they're speaking two different narratives. What God is speaking is he's speaking two different narratives. One, a narrative that we're out there and we're galvanizing and giving the resources that our people need. And the other narrative is that while you're doing that, I'm still going to cut off the witchcrafts and the soothsaying and the graven images, all of those things that are against me. God is doing it all at the same time, so that his people can now return. Not return any old way, but would return in a fashion in which is acceptable before God. Because that's always the bottom line, and that's the thing that always matters. When you have unity, when you have anything, when you have a return, all of this is good. However, it doesn't become pleasant unless it's in accordance with what God requires. Come on.
And I will execute vengeance and anger and fury upon the nations, because they hearken not.
And this is God doing exactly that. Executing anger, executing vengeance, all the while you notice that some people are taking it like, people are showing you who they are. And the things that are happening, people are showing you who they are. Because what's happening is the only thing that you have happening, you don't have people being attacked. You don't have people being assaulted. What you have is you have movements like the Black Lives Matter and different movements that are only saying, we want justice. That's all they're saying. They're saying we want reform. They're saying we want our voices to be heard. That's all they're really saying. And the response to that is, you know what? You think you're going to change the policing policies? You know what? I quit. And that's what the police are doing. They said 272 members of the NYPD has put in their resignation papers since this whole thing started. The Buffalo Police Department it was on TV. They shoved the man to the floor. They lied about it. They said that the man attacked him. They shoved him to the floor. His ears started bleeding. They brought charges against the 2 officers, and the rest of the unit said, we quit. Imagine that. Imagine you start to enforce upright judgment, justice, and people can't take it. I quit. I'd rather be unemployed. Rather than you tell me that the things that I've had the liberty to do, that's the reason that I became a police officer, the things that I've had the liberty to do, I'm no longer allowed to do that. So, yesterday, I was in my house putting the floor down on the deck, listening to some music, and my neighbor called the police on me because my music was too loud. And so the police, I saw the police on one side, and then the neighbor started to yell out the side door, and she was calling, and so I said, Tats, I think the lady's calling me. So then when I went to see what was going on, you know what I think it was? I think it was, it's Oo's fault, because I bought me a brand new speaker, big speaker. I was testing it out, and I think that Unlock the Swag came on with all that bass, and I think that might have been the tipping point. Anyway, so I went outside, and there was the police, and the lady was like, oh no, I'm so sorry, Miriam. I didn't know that it was you playing the music. I thought it was the other minorities from across the street.
Wow.
That's what she said. So they didn't mean to call the police on us minorities. They meant to call the police on the other minorities. It just, you know. So I asked the officer, is there an issue here? And he said, you're good. And that was it. But it just shows you how people feel. Come on.
Chapter 6. Hear ye now what Yehovah saith.
Amen.
Arise, contend thou before the mountains, and let the hills hear thy voice. Hear, O ye mountains, Yehovah's controversy, and ye enduring rocks, the foundation of the earth.
Amen.
For Yehovah hath a controversy with his people,
Yes, he does.
and he will plead with Yisrael.
Amen.
O my people, what have I done unto thee? And wherein have I wearied thee? Testify against me. For I brought thee up out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed thee out of the house of bondage.
The actual Independence Day that means anything to us. Come on.
And I sent before thee Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam, O my people. Remember now what Balak, king of Moab, devised, and what Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him.
Yeah.
From Shittim unto Gilgal, that ye may know the righteous acts of Yehovah.
So now, obviously this is the connection to the Torah portion, and I'm not going to get into this because someone's going to be doing the Torah portion once I come down. But I do want to touch on this. When they start to talk about that ye may know the righteous acts of Yehovah. When you read this portion, you're going to see it talks about Balaam and Balak and how Balak tried to get Balaam to curse the people, and they're looking down at us and they're trying to get the people cursed.
Right.
And us down in the valley,
Yeah.
we're busy fighting amongst ourselves.
Exactly.
None the wiser that God is doing his work, protecting us from everything, and we're busy fighting amongst ourselves. Because when you read the next couple of portions and you read the previous portions before it, you'll see we're arguing, we're fighting. Korah, Dahn, Abiram, all these people arguing, fighting. Meanwhile, God is busy protecting us from people who look to do us harm.
Real enemy.
The real enemy. Does that sound familiar? I ask, does that sound familiar? Because when Israelites are fighting Israelites, when black people are fighting black people, you know they said last week 60 people were shot in Chicago over the weekend. Another 54 in New York. And how many ever other places that similar type of events occurred? Israelites can't get together for a lot of different things. Black people can't get together for a lot of different things. Meanwhile, God is protecting us from a people who are really looking to do us harm.
That's right.
that ye may know the righteous acts of Jehovah. Come on.
Wherewith shall I come before Jehovah and bow myself before Yah on high?
Okay.
Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old?
And it shows you. So there's that desire to come back to God. Come on.
Will Jehovah be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000 of rivers of oil?
And it shows you that we want to come back, but we just don't know how. We know that offerings are a part of it somehow, but we just don't know. We're not quite sure. Come on.
Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression,
Come on.
the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul?
And it shows you, because obviously that's not something that God requires. Giving your firstborn for your transgression, giving the food of your soul, any types of human sacrifice, allowing someone to be sacrificed so you can be saved. Any lamb, any male lamb, human lamb, any of that, God does not require. But it shows out that we don't really know how to get back to God as much as we try.
Talk about that.
It shows that we don't really know how to get back to God as hard as we try. And here come God's people. Here's the prophet giving the answer. Come on.
It hath been told thee, O man, what is
You already
good.
know.
Sure.
You already know. It was already told to you. It was already explained. All you need to do is search it out, find it out, and follow it. Come on.
And what Jehovah doth require of thee, only to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Verse something. All honors, praises, respect, acknowledgement, and thanks I offer unto the great King of the universe, to the God of our fathers, to the God of Abraham, the God of Yisrael, and the God of Yaakov, thanking him for all things and thanking him for everything. I bid you to talk about forefathers. Shabbat Shalom Nicole.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we're going to hear from the gentleman who will be providing the say there for today, and that will be Moreh Yeftahk, Dahn. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Continuous praise to the Most High God, King of heaven and earth, even the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Yisrael. I bid you all in the tongue of our forefathers, Shabbat Shalom again.
Shabbat Shalom again.
How's everybody feeling?
Go.
Somebody tell me what today's portion is.
Balak.
Balak. Which is found in Numbers, the book of Numbers, the 22nd chapter, beginning in the 2nd verse. Genocide. The deliberate and systematic extermination of a national, racial, political, or cultural group. Genocide. Do we feel that that's a practice that happens in these days and times? Do we see that it was practiced in antiquity?
Okay.
Today's portion is a unique portion. It's unique in the fact that as we've been reading our history and we started from Genesis and we was going forward, it's told from our perspective. It's told from what's happening to the Israelites and what people are doing to the Israelites. However, in this week's portion, we're going to see that the history is being told about what's happening outside of the nation, how people want to hurt us, how people want to harm us, in spite of the fact that we actually don't know what's going on. We don't know that there's people who hate us. We have an idea. The Israelites in this day and time, speaking of the portion, we know that the Egyptians don't like us. We know that we just got out of captivity. We know that we're fighting with Moses, as my brother Samal Zocair just spoke of. we know that we don't like being out there, but we don't actually know that there's a people who, as we get into this, we're going to see, we did absolutely nothing to. We did nothing to them. And it was because of their fear of who we were and what we represented that made them say, I want to kill them. And then I want us to think about us in these days and times. Who you are and what you represent. And what God made you. Because a lot of times we underestimate ourselves. I say the biggest mistake that King Saul made in his life was not understanding what it meant for him to be the king of the nation of Yisrael. What it meant for him to be over the people of God. What does it mean to you to be a righteous person and to be chosen by God? I heard my brother Chief Uzziah say this morning about who we are as a people. If you don't think of yourself as nothing more as a man or as a woman, then what are you? We're people who lack self-esteem. We're people who lack the knowledge and the intelligence to understand the power that we actually have in our hand. And part of that is because we don't accept the power that God has. The power that God has bestowed upon us. And also the power that God has to change our lives in a second.
Talk about it.
And so, as we talk about Balak, and as we talk about who Balak was and what he represented to us, I want us to think about genocide. And I'm telling you that because there was a statement made by the president of this country just recently that he said, we are allowing the protesters to erase our history. And I'm telling you, because he's talking about the statues being destroyed, Black Lives Matter being written in the streets. He's telling you, and somewhat uncertain, but if you can read between the lines in absolutely no uncertain terms, to the people that he's talking to, don't let them do to you what we've already established. And if you get yourself to a point where you understand the type of hatred that's going on, instead of saying to yourself, the only way somebody can hate me is if they outwardly say it. I hate you. If you stop believing that, then you can understand the greater perspective going on. Because the Egyptians, they showed that they hated us. They showed why they had us in slavery, that that's what was going on. But when we get into this portion, when we think about this, I want us to remember this one time. The only people we were fighting with right now is with ourselves. We didn't do anything to these people. We didn't say anything to them. We didn't take anything from them. But the reality is that they didn't like what you represented, and therefore they wanted to kill you. You know, I was born in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. I grew up in a part of the Bronx for a little while, but then we moved back to Brooklyn when I was about 12, 13 years old. And one of the things I had to learn quickly was you need to understand what's happening around here.
Yes, sir.
Because you could find yourself in the wrong block, in the wrong building, talking to the wrong people, and find yourself in a situation very quickly that you can't get yourself out of. I'm telling you that because we found ourselves in a society where we're trying to assimilate. And I agree with my brother Small Zocair. Whatever your job is whatever your job is. Because you have to do your job to bring the people of God back to God. But here's the reality. Reality is that your job, there's no greater job that you have than to serve the Most High God. And we can't do that as good Americans. I'm telling you that right now. You will have to choose. Can a leopard change his spots? book of Amos, chapter 3. Zebras can't change their stripes. We are who we are. And that's the internal conflict that we have in serving God. I want to serve God on Saturday, but Monday through Friday, Sunday through Friday. This is who I have to be in order to survive. Our parents have tried it. Our parents' parents have tried it. Our great-grandparents have tried it. And none of them have been successful. And so as we get into Balak, I want us to understand that while we were busy fighting with God and fighting with ourselves and all those other things going on, it was the Midianites. It was the Amorites. It was people who had problems with God that had problems with us. And so as we understand our situation, the enemies of God are our enemies. There's no two ways about that. And people who don't love God will only hinder you, will only stagnate you, and will only cause you to be in a foul position with your God. Remember that. There will be people who will come along the way who will want to serve God, in spite of what they've been doing in life. You will have people who are priests to another God who will understand who your God is and who will want to help you. I'm here to say that today, accept those people. Moses' father-in-law was one of those people. You will have people who are living life foul who will want to help you. Rahab, the harlot, was one of those people. But also bear in mind that those people are far and in between. We don't read about those people consistently through the Tanakh. And so for us, we have to understand and discern who's for our best interests and who's going to help us. And why do I say that? Because we're going to see, and we're going to go through the history, but we're going to see who Balaam was. And we're going to see about how him being some might call a sorcerer, some might call a witch doctor, prognosticator, whatever he was. God used him for two purposes. But what we're going to ultimately realize is that this is going to be one of his last acts. And that even though he blessed the people of God, according to how God told him to do, that eventually when we get to next week's portion, we're going to realize that we had to kill him because he did not have our best interests in mind. Keep that in mind as we're reading the history. It begins.
We're in the book of Numbers, chapter 22, starting at the 2nd verse. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Yisrael had done to the Amorites. And Moab was so afraid of the people, because they were many. And Moab was overcome with dread because of the children of Israel.
Stop. That doesn't sound like something to hate somebody about. That doesn't sound like something to fear somebody about. There was many of them, but they were overcome with dread. Propaganda. So when people put into your mind, it's like, why do you like him? Why should I not like him? Ask yourself the question, why do you want me to think a certain way? What did he do to me that makes me stop and say, be afraid of him? Or be afraid of how many of them there are? But we actually seen the same thing with Egypt, right? That's what the king of Egypt did to his people. He said, the people are numerous. And one day, what if they join our enemies? And then what took place? Genocide. What they thought would be eventual genocide. Throw their babies in the river. Now, here we go with the Amorites. He's seeing what we did to the Amorites. However, what happened with us and the Amorites? They came and attacked us. Not that we went and attacked them. But what's the big problem? The big problem is we got a people that if we fight them, we don't think we can beat them. And that's the issue. And when that happened, now he's like, destroy them. Come on.
And Moab said unto the elders of Midian, now with this multitude lick up all that is round about us, as the ox licketh up the grass of the field. And Balak the son of Zippor was king of Moab at that time. And he sent messages unto Balaam, the son of Beor, to Petor, which is by the river, to the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, Behold, there is a people come out from Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me. Come, now therefore I pray thee, curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that we may smite them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom thou blessest is blessed, and he whom thou curse is cursed.
We haven't heard of this probably in centuries now. I'm going to go and hire somebody from another land to curse the people so I can go and fight against them. Well, actually, that makes sense. Let me tell y'all why. Usually it's agreed that you need to fight fire with fire. If this is what you're fighting with, oh, you're marching in the name of your God, don't forget, the pillar of fire is still leading the people. The pillar of fire that everybody could see. You see how the Moabites here knew what was going on out in the wilderness? They knew that people were being destroyed. They knew that we were calling upon God. So now they're saying, okay, if whom you bless is blessed and if whom you curse is cursed, then that's how I have to fight this people. Because I can't fight them straight up. I say that to say, why do you think in this captivity they are so staunch of you not being a religious person? Religious. Why do you think they don't like you getting closer to God? Why do you think it's imperative of them to make you a good Christian? They only want you talking about God if you're talking about Christianity. But once you start talking about the Old Testament and the God of Abraham and the God who sent you into captivity, once you ask yourself the question, who is the God that sent us into captivity and allowed all of this to happen to us, then you obviously will be led to the answer of how you come out of your captivity. They don't want you meeting that. They don't want you knowing that. They don't want you understanding that. Because when that happens, what happens to them? They're destroyed. They have to be repaid. They have to answer to God for what they have done. If they attack your righteousness, their blessing comes to play. Remember that for the end of this lesson. If they attack your righteousness, then your protection has left you. In everything in life, I don't care what circle you find yourself in, you need somebody and something to protect you. I don't care where you go, what's going on, you need people around you who have your best interests in mind. People who are going to ensure your safety and the safety of your group. Who's the protector of the household? The man. Generally agreed. And so what's the first thing that they did? Who did they remove from the household? The man. And how did he do that? He didn't tell you to leave the household, oh men. He didn't tell you you're no longer the protector. He went and he attacked your woman mentally. He caused her to believe that you are not needed. He caused her to believe that you are only needed temporarily. He caused her to believe that you did not have her best interests in mind. And so what happened? He put images out before her that showed her that you were no good. And he caused you to believe. He caused you to believe that she wasn't faithful to you, that you didn't need her, and he caused you to identify her with something that is easily replaced. And therefore the protection went away, and the household broke down, and now we find ourselves in the mess that we're in today. And he used that same tactic when it came to serving God. If God is your protection, I need to get what you believe in about God away from you. So I need you to believe that serving God is not to your benefit. I need you to believe that God is not answering your prayers. And I need you to believe that the God that you serve no longer works the way he used to work. But fortunately for us, and unfortunately for him, our God continues to talk to us through spirituality. He causes us to see signs and wonders and events that happen that just as soon as we think that they're random, we realize that they're not so random. And so my brother Samal Zocair talked about that earlier. The fact that these things are happening during the midst of a pandemic, when things are happening in the world that we might otherwise glance past. That we might be like, oh, you know what? I'm tired of thinking about this. Let me turn on the football game. I'm tired of thinking about this. Let me turn on reality TV. Right? Because that's what we're distracted by. You sit down and be like, now you have no other choice. Mask on or mask off. What are we talking about here? Now we're in the middle of an election year. And it's like, can we have the election or can we not have the election? And should we be involved in the election? And now we're like, oh, I don't want to get sick. And the reality is the same type of oomph, the same type of fervor that we use in understanding these things. How come we have to use these things to understand God and what he's doing and why it's happening in these days and in these times? And so as we talk about Balak and what he means, there's always a central figure, whether we realize it or not. There is always a central figure. In Egypt, it was Pharaoh. Here in these days, not in these days and times, here in this portion, we see the central figure is Balak. And if you see what happened, because I want to talk to y'all about 45 for a second, and when somebody understands how to be a distraction.
Amen.
You see, for Balak, he chose Balaam to be the distraction, but he was making moves. Balak understood that if he made himself the central point, that at that point, people might begin to shift and think, oh, let's do things this way. And what happens is, what most leaders don't realize is that when you put yourself out on the forefront like that, people either say, yes, is it high risk, high reward? Either, yes, you were right, and that's why we should, be loyal to you forever, or they go, oh no, you were wrong. And therefore, this is why you shouldn't be in your position. I'm saying that for 45 in particular because if you see what he does, he points to everybody else. It's always somebody else's fault why it's happening this way. In spite of the fact that he says incredible things that make absolutely no sense. And I want to enumerate what he says, but what I'm telling you here is no matter what's going on, it's the Chinese, it's the Russians, it's the immigrants, it's the people who think our people know good. Understand what he's doing. He is trying to keep you distracted while he's putting laws in place to destroy you.
Judges.
And so, absolutely. And so, as we look at Balaam, Balaam is going to be today's scapegoat. Balaam is going to be today's scapegoat for, oh yes, come and curse this people. But it's generally accepted. Cursing people, unless you have God on your side, it ain't gonna work. But he's setting the precursor for him to come and attack Israel. He's setting the precursor to stop and let his people know this is why you have to kill them. And I'm telling y'all that because as we live in a country with a president who is stoking the fire, his ultimate goal is not to be president. His ultimate goal is to get people to believe to hate you once again so that they can turn things back the way they used to be. Do not be distracted. what's going on, him telling you to swallow bleach and it'll cause you to heal from COVID-19, and that, you know, there's plenty of people who accept who he is and that he's loved. It's all a distraction. If you see his constant messaging, his constant words, it's the protesters. And there are people who don't like our culture. And there are people. Who are those people? Those people are me and you. And so when that happens, he wants that resentment to be built up, because now he has a national stage to do that. So that there will eventually become a person, if he can't get it done in his lifetime, he'll get it done in somebody else's lifetime, to make people hate you again, to bring the country back to what it used to be, with us in slavery and them telling us what to do. Here it is.
Verse 7. And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the rewards of divination in their hand. And they came unto Balaam and spoke unto him the words of Balak. And he said unto them, Lodge here this night, and I will bring you back word as Jehovah may speak unto me.
Right?
And the princes of Moab abode with Balaam.
Come on.
And God said unto Balaam, and said, What men are these with thee? And Balaam said unto God, Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab, hath sent unto me, saying, Behold, the people that has come out of Egypt, it covereth the face of the earth. Now come curse me them, peradventure I shall be able to fight against them, and shall drive them out.
And God said
unto Balaam, Thou shalt not go with them, thou shalt not curse the people, for they are blessed.
They are blessed. That's you. In spite of the fact that God has the plague going throughout the camp. In spite of the fact that 10,000 are dying here. In spite of the fact that Aaron had to light the incense and run in between and pray for people in order that the plague might be stayed and people not die. God is saying that you are still blessed. That's who we have always been. At our lowest points, at our highest points, we remain to be blessed because God said it. The problem is, do you believe it?
Right.
It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what they think. Our salvation comes from the Lord. But are we acting like our salvation comes from the Lord? Are we giving to God what we expect from God? We want to have friendships of benefit. We want to, the only way I'm going to say shalom to you is if you say shalom to me. The only way I'm going to be loyal to you is if you be loyal to me. As a matter of fact, if I don't like the way you're looking at me right now, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. But that's not who righteous people are. And don't let base people make you like that. We are people that we have to show one another how to love one another. And if you're just that one person to show people how to love one another, you did something great for God. Not that God needed you to do that, but that's what God wants you to do. We have to learn to be that people that love one another in such a way that people stop and say, those are loving people. The same way how we're known to be a forgiving people. One thing that black people are known as throughout the world is the most forgiving people in spite of our circumstance. We know that it is generally agreed as a collective, we'll forgive almost anybody at some point or another in time. How come we're not known like that for our fear of God? How come we're not known like that for our righteousness? A people that covers the face of the earth. We're known for a certain way, but there's still people who hate us. And God had to remind Balaam in this instance. He said, listen, you can't. The people are blessed. And so as we look at this, we see and we know, we're like, you know what? There's stipulations to this. There's always been stipulations to this. The only way things can happen to us is if God says it's okay. The only way we'll be successful is if God says it's okay. So no matter what we do, no matter how we see things happening, understand, you need your God to be successful in life. No matter what you think you're going to do, no matter how you think you're going to go about it, if you don't put God first, eventually you will learn that God will answer you. It reads.
And Balaam rose up in the morning and said unto the princes of Balak, Get you into your land, for Yahweh refuseth to give me leave to go with you. And the princes of Moab rose up, and they went unto Balak and said, Balaam refuses to come with us. And Balak sent yet again princes more and more honorable than they.
Right.
And they came to Balaam and said to him, Thus saith Balak the son of Zippor, Let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me. For I will promote thee unto very great honor, and whatsoever thou sayest unto me, I will do. Come therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people. And Balaam answered and said unto the servants of Balak, If Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold,
right,
I cannot go beyond the word of Jehovah my God to do anything small or great. Now therefore, I pray you, tarry also here this night, that I may know what Jehovah will speak unto me more. And God said unto Balaam at night, and said unto him, If the men are come to call thee, rise up and go with them. For only the word which I speak unto thee, that shalt thou do.
Don't test God. That's the point of this altogether. Let me tell you how he's testing God. The way he thinks he's getting himself out of this situation is because he said to them, I'm just letting y'all know, no matter what y'all ask me to do, whatever God tells me to do, that's what I have to do. Right. So now, he's like, I put myself in the clear. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I'm not on your side. Don't test God. Because God knows in your mind what you plan to do. God knows how you plan to deal with things. And the reality is that when these more mighty princes came, he said, oh, Balak is serious about this. Balak really wants me to come in. He's going to make me rich. And here's the reality. Who doesn't want to be rich? Even rich people want more riches. Even rich people want to add to their wealth. And so he's like, oh, if he's going to do that, obviously he believed him. And he said, when he seen the more mighty princes, he's like, he's serious. So he went and said that. He said, let me go and ask God. You can ask God once. You can ask God twice. You can ask God 3 times. But the reality is, in your heart, we all know what God wants. That's a reality. Yes is yes and no is no. You know, it's almost like a game where kids play. They come and ask you, can I go outside? Did you clean your room? All right, my answer is no. They come back, they're like, well, I made up my bed. Can I go outside? Did you clean your room? I made up my bed. Go clean your room. Come back. I picked up the clothes off the floor. That's what little kids do, right? I picked up the clothes off the floor and I made the bed. Can I go outside? As a father, stop and I say, you know, you could have actually went outside already if you just took the time to make your bed, pick the clothes up off the floor, put all the stuff on the dresser where it's supposed to go, take all the dirt out from under your bed. If you did all of that and stop running back and trying to do one thing and just come back and ask me, but now what you actually did is you made me upset because now I think you're trying to be slick. So, no, you can't go outside. Now go clean the bathroom. To some people, it's like, that's almost like rude, right? It's like, yeah, but they're kids. But this is how we deal with God. And I'm telling you that we think that as long as we do a little bit before God, that should be enough. And that if we come back later, we'll get the ultimate blessing from God. And so, the way God deals with us is the way we deal with him in bits and pieces, he deals with us in bits and pieces. So that we can understand, hey, listen, I'll bless you, but I'm going to bless you according to how you want to be blessed. If you think that you can do a Lord here and a Lord there and get blessed, you'll be blessed a little bit, but I won't give you everything that you're worthy of. I won't give you everything that your potential. Let me take back that word worthy. I won't give you everything that you potentially can get. You know why? Because you want to serve me in bits and pieces. And so you can get your blessing early in life, or you can get your blessing later in life. So it all depends on you, how seriously you want to take it. So that's the thing they got going on right now, right? The energy you give is the energy I'm going to give. You dictate how this is going to go. That's us and God. What type of energy are we giving to God? What type of allegiance are we showing to God? And if we want God to be a savior to us, what are we showing to God that we want him to save us? Because the reality is that we're not prepared to leave this country. We're not prepared to live amongst one another. The reality is that we still argue with ourselves about little things. Amen. Right here in these days and times. That actually break us apart. That make us say, you know what? I ain't afford it. But my reality is, if you're in your own country and you have problems and you ain't got no place else to go, what you gonna do? And so that's why I sit down and say, I'm like, listen, if you got problems in your household, close the door. Stop letting everybody else trickle in and get in your ear about what's going on. Close the door and you two sit down and talk and say, listen, me and you need to talk about what's happening right here, right now. That only doesn't start with your spouse. That starts with your children. That starts in your community, wherever you are, and then we can deal with that as a nation. And I'm saying all of that to say is because when we invite God into our meeting, when we invite God into our problems, that's what's going to allow us to build and grow. That's what's going to allow us to sit down and say, okay, this is what's going on here. Balaam, he invited God into the meeting, but the problem with Balaam is he didn't think God knew, he didn't think that God understood what was going on in his mind. Who gives silver and gold? Who gives it to you? When you get money, who gets it? Who gives it to you? If your answer wasn't God, you're still missing the mark. But God told him, if he called you, go. But I'm warning you. Say what I tell you to say. Come on.
21. And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and went with the princes of Moab. And God's anger was kindled against Slikah. And God's anger was kindled because he went. And the angel of Yahweh placed himself in the way for an adversary against him. Now he was riding upon his ass, and his 2 servants were with him. And his ass saw the angel of Yahweh standing in the way, with his sword drawn in his hand. And the ass turned aside out of the way and went into the field. And Balaam smote the ass to turn her into the way. Then the angel of Yahweh stood in a hollow way between the vineyards, a fence being on this side and a fence on that side. And the ass saw the angel of Yahweh, and she thrust herself into the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, and he smote her again.
Son, come on.
And the angel of Yahweh went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the right hand or to the left. And the ass saw the angel of Yahweh, and she lay down under Balaam.
Son.
And Balaam's anger was kindled, and he smote the ass with his staff.
Come on.
And Yahweh opened the mouth of the ass, and she said unto
Son, come on.
What have I done unto thee that thou hast smitten me these 3 times? And Balaam said unto the ass, because thou hast mocked me. I would dare wear a sword in my hand, for now I had killed thee.
Stop. 3 signs. But what you needed, what Balaam needed, was to hear the word of God. He needed to see something extravagant to finally believe God. He never stopped and said to himself, hey, maybe I shouldn't be going in this direction, and God is trying to tell me something. You know, in the car, me and my son were talking. You know, I was asking him about luck and signs and things of that nature, believing in God, right? It's like, okay, some people are lucky, some people are not so lucky. What was the word you used? Unlucky. Some people, okay, so just to give you all an example, I said, if you find $100 on the floor, what is that? What do you say? That's luck. It's $100. Surely I'm blessed. So what if you find $100 in the house? Without him even hearing me and your conversations before, he said, well, that's different. Everybody who knows Zocair, that's his line. No, that's different. He said, well, that's different. We're inside the house, so I know it probably belongs to you or somebody inside the house. And so I said, how come it doesn't belong to somebody? Even though we're outside the house. So somebody, I was like, do you just see $100 laying on the floor here and there? It had to come from somewhere. He said, yeah, but that's because somebody was being irresponsible. I said, interesting. Blessings and curses and what God is trying to show you. God may have sent you to find my $100 as I was being irresponsible. And he might have been showing me a sign that, hey, listen, you're a good child, and that you have good people around you that have your best interests in mind. However, if you pick up the money and you put it in your pocket, you're never going to get that blessing from me or from God. Here's what I'm here to tell you. Your fortune, or what you perceive to be your fortune, may not actually be your blessing. And so there's sometimes when you have to think things through before you do it. It's okay to take a second. Think about it. Think about what you're doing, while you're doing it. And then ask yourself the question, how does God feel about this? There's nothing wrong with it. And I'm telling you about signs because if you can get 3 signs immediately and you're just sitting there and you're like, man, this thing, I keep moving, the microphone won't move the way I want it to move. And then boom, it breaks. Like at a certain point, it didn't occur to you, leave the microphone alone. Don't touch it anymore because something different is happening here. I'm saying that because with Balaam is what we do. When things don't go our way, what's the first thing we do? Yeah, I'm gonna say get angry. Get angry. That's what we do. We get angry. Oh, stupid microphone. What's the next thing we do? We become aggressive. Things aren't going our way. I don't like the way it's happening. I start yelling. Then I want to start breaking stuff. What does that achieve? The ass is taking him to his destination. What is beating the ass going to do? Other than make the ass angry. And so that's what we don't realize in the dual messages of God. The same way you ask me something repeatedly and I got angry is the same way that I'm going to show you that even though you want to do something and repeatedly somebody's not doing what you want them to do, I'm going to let this ass take you there, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how you can sit with anger and that you have to deal with it in a certain way. And God is showing him in such a way that, and this is what I talk about for spirituality, he didn't even realize that the angel of God was there, ready to kill him. He didn't even realize that the very thing that he was fighting was for his benefit. The very thing. That's how we deal with one another. We're fighting with one another, and we're each other's most valuable asset. We like to think that it's like, oh, well, they're not doing what I told them to do, so I don't need them. That's a lie. The very thing we need is people who call upon God. Whether they call upon God the way you call upon God or not, it is your job to show people how to be better in serving God if you know how to serve God better. We're all at different points in our life. We have all encountered God in a different way. And so as Balaam is encountering God the way he's encountering God, he didn't have a human being come and talk to him. He didn't talk to, even though he just got finished talking to Balaam the day before he left and told him, go and bless the people. he's using this sign so that Balaam can understand for himself. Understand that as we move forward and we're looking to hear God in a dream or hear the voice of God. Oftentimes, God is talking to us through his signs and our day-to-day activities. We have to be listening and looking to see when God is talking. It reads.
Verse 30. And Ahaz said unto Balaam, am not I thine ass upon which thou hast ridden all thy life long unto this day?
Okay.
Was I ever want to do so unto thee? And he said, nay. Then Yahweh opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of Yahweh standing in the way, with his sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed his head and fell on his face. And the angel of Yahweh said unto him, wherefore hast thou smitten thine ass these 3 times? Behold, I am come forth for an adversary, because thy way is contrary unto me. And the ass saw me and turned aside before me these 3 times. Unless she had turned aside from me, surely now I had slain thee, and saved her alive. Balaam said unto the angel of Yahweh, I have sinned. For I knew not that thou sittest in the way against me. Now therefore, if it displease thee, I will give thee back.
Stop. See, this is the stuff I'm talking about. Oh, well, if you don't like it, I'll go back. But you know that God don't like it. He just told you that I would have killed you and saved the ass alive. But now, if it displeased thee, shows you about people's mindset. Shows you about how people think. What we do. Let me just ask you one more time. But he didn't realize that the road he was on was the road to death. This action was going to be his last action. Come on.
And the angel of Yahweh said unto Balaam, go with the men, for only the word that I shall speak unto thee, that shalt thou speak. So Balaam went with the princes of Balak. And when Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him unto the ear of Moreh, which is on the border of Arnon.
Come on.
Which is in the utmost part of the border. And Balak said unto Balaam, did I not earnestly send unto thee to call thee? Wherefore camest thou not unto me? Am I not able indeed to promote thee to honor? And Balaam said unto Balak, lo, I am come unto thee. Have I now any power at all to speak anything? The word that God putteth in my mouth, that shall I speak. And Balaam went with Balak, and they came unto Kiriyat Kuzot, and Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep and sent to Balaam and to the princes that were with him. And it came to pass in the morning that Balak took Balaam and brought him up unto Baal, and he saw from thence the utmost part of the people.
Yeah. So we understand what's going on now. Now we're going to start to fast forward a whole lot. Because here, you see the first thing that Balak does. It's like, yeah, and I'm paraphrasing, God, you acting like I can't make you rich. I got all this. This is what they say to you. This is what they say to you, and I'm telling you because you may be presented with this when you go out in the workforce, or when you're presented with things in life. I can make you a very rich person. Go and do this. And you may be in conflict with what they're asking you to do because you know the laws of the Most High God. Or something about what they're asking you to do doesn't seem right. Especially when you deal with mobilizing people. Especially when you deal with distributing resources to people. You're working in different places that you stop and you say, but wait a second. If I do this, these people are going to be affected. And somebody may come to you and say, I understand. Sometimes collateral damage happens in life. But this is for the betterment of the whole. Then you'll have to make a decision where you'll have to stop and say, am I going to do this or am I going to do that? When you're busy making decisions, when you're ready to go to corporate America, and you stop and you're like, listen, we're going to take away 500 jobs due to downsizing. And you find yourself at that point and you're like, okay, how do they make the determination for these 500 jobs? Oh, we're just going to pick some names. I'm here to tell you this day that if you can find yourself in a meeting like that, and you start looking at the names, and you're like, all these names sound the same. The Jacksons, and the Williams, and the Greens. And then you stop and you hear Shaquisha Jackson, Lamont Green. Ernest Williams. Sit down and be like, wait a second. Start putting names together. Gershowitz, not a one. But there's 300 who work for the company. How are they doing this? What type of rules are they operating by? I want you to sign this. I'm standing here today to tell you that God's putting you in a position for a reason. They might do it anyway, but don't let God put that on you as your sin. Because there are times where we have to make decisions that are in the best interest of our people, whether they know God or not. And so, as we sit down and we talk about decisions here, now they're coming to make a sacrifice to God. You know what Balak wants you to do. Balak wants you to curse the people. And here you go, you're inviting God into the situation, bringing an offering with one person's expectation for you to curse them and God's expectation for you to bless them. Amen. And everybody's looking at you. Keep that in mind. Here it is.
Chapter 23. And Balaam said unto Balak, build me here 7 altars and prepare me here 7 bullocks and 7 rams. And Balak did as Balaam had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and a ram. And Balaam said unto Balak, stand by the burnt offering, and I will go. Peradventure Yahweh will come to meet me, and whatsoever he showed me, I will tell thee. And he went to a bare height.
Now, I just want us to understand this as I'm about to let him read. In antiquity, this is how offerings took place. We do see that God commanded us in the wilderness, which we see we're at the end of the 40 years. But we see that God commanded an altar to be built. And so that's why when we see in our history, for those who understand it, when God told us not to go to high places anymore, and that we see an altar, go up by steps to my altar. Don't go up by steps unless. What happened is that this is how people performed offerings in antiquity. They found a mountain. They thought that this is the place where you were getting closer to God as you ascended, and that there you would offer unto God. And that's why there's a prohibition later on in our laws that stops and says, don't find yourself offering under every leafy tree and on every high place. This is how they got it done. And even as we see with Abraham and Isaac, where did he go to offer Isaac? In a mountain. Because that's how they did it, but eventually that changed. Come on.
And God met Balaam, and he said unto him, I have prepared the 7 altars, and I have offered up a bullock and a ram on every altar. And Yahweh put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, return unto Balak, and thus thou shalt speak. And he returned unto him, and lo, he stood by his burnt offering, he and all the princes of Moab.
Expecting a curse. Come on.
And he took up his parable and said, from Aram Balak bringeth me, the king of Moab from the mountains of the east. Come, curse me Jacob, and come execrate Yisrael. How shall I curse whom God has not cursed? And how shall I execrate whom Yahweh hath not execrated?
Come on.
For from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, it is a people that shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations.
Come on.
Who have counted the dust of Yaakov, or numbered the stock of Yisrael. Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my end be like his.
So God told him to put it in his mouth. Because you know why? Other people needed to hear exactly who God was and how he was fighting for them. Amen. Because the Midianites had no excuse. Not only did they not hear about the children of Israel come through the wilderness, but they heard about what God just did to Egypt.
That's right.
And how could they not think that after God fought against Egypt for the nation of Israel, that he wouldn't do the same thing to them? But the reality is that that's not where their mind was. That's why we can't look to other people to teach us about God.
Okay.
Because they don't have a holy mindset. They don't have a righteous mindset. They're thought to think about themselves instead of thinking about the whole. And when you can kill another man unjustifiably, that shows exactly how wicked you are. That's the problem with the police in these days and times. Because you're sitting down and you're like, how dare you stop and say that you'll quit after you took an oath to serve and protect when your kind is unjustifiably killing a certain set of people and you don't want to be held accountable for it? You think it's better to protect those who you serve with, and you feel that it's a burden. You feel it's a burden to change your tactics in dealing with people as opposed to shooting somebody in the back. As opposed to leaning your entire body weight on somebody's neck. That you can actually hear somebody cry out and say, I can't breathe, and not adjust your position.
Amen.
When that happens, that's when some soul searching has to happen. Because not every cop feels the way those cops feel.
Right.
But there's a lot of cops who do. Not every person in this country is racist. But there's a lot of people who feel like how Donald Trump feels. And so, now people are choosing sides. Now people are saying, this is where I draw the line. And my question to Israel is, where do you draw the line? Where do you stop and say, enough is enough? Clearly, Balaam did not have a line to be drawn. He started off, come curse me Yaakov, and come execrate Israel. How shall I curse whom God has not cursed? And how shall I execrate whom the Lord has not execrated? Because God has a contention with his people. And if we learn to forget about what everybody else thinks about us, and we prepare our relationship and prepare and repair our relationship with God, we'll be better off as a people. It goes on to read.
And Balak said unto Balaam, what hast thou done unto me? I took thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast blessed them all together. He answered and said, must I not take heed to speak that which Jehovah putteth in my mouth? And Balak said unto him, come, I pray thee, with me unto another place, from whence thou mayest see them. Thou shalt see but the utmost part of them, and shalt not see them all.
Okay.
And curse me them from thence.
Okay, so I just want to tell y'all, you know how some people don't get it? You know how we could watch people and be like, we don't get it? Okay, so we just seen the situation happening with the ass, right? And, you know, first it stood this way, then it went that way and it crushed, then it tried to go that way, and then it went down and it crushed his foot. And Balaam didn't get it. And then finally he was like, oh, if you don't want me to go, then I'll go back. Okay, now when he's seeing that God didn't want to curse the people but to bless them, wouldn't it stop and say, hey, listen, I can't help you. I'm sorry. But ain't that the time to go home? Not for everybody. Listen, you have some very smart people in the world, but they're not wise. And you have some very wise people in the world, and they don't have book smarts, but they understand how to survive in life. Understand where your wisdom lies. It reads.
And he took them to the field of Zocair, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars, and offered up a bullock and a ram on every altar. And he said unto Balak, stand here by the burnt offering while I go toward a meeting yonder. And Jehovah met Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, return to Balak, and thus shalt thou speak. He came to him, and lo, he stood by his burnt offering, and the princes of Moab with him. And Balak said unto him, what hath Jehovah spoken? And he took up his parable and said, arise, Balak, and hear. Give ear unto me, thou son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. When he has said, will he not do it? Or when he has spoken, will he not make it good? Behold, I am bidden to bless, and when he hath blessed, I cannot hold it back. None hath beheld iniquity in Jacob, neither hath one seen perverseness in Yisrael. Jehovah his God is with him, and the shadow for the king is among them.
Hold right there. Don't y'all understand what this is? We're looking at the sin as like, oh, we didn't do any iniquity. He's saying no sin has been found, no sin that is worthy of death. No sin that is worthy of him breaking his promise to Abraham, and his promise to Isaac, and his promise to Jacob. That's the sin that he's talking about here. God realizes that there will be people and generations that will have to be destroyed, but his blessing will be upon us forever. The only question is, are we going to decide to be the generation that is blessed? See, I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, when God said, 19, God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. That's what I'm talking about right there. See, we're looking for the points where God contradicts himself. And I'm telling you that our God is perfect. He never contradicts himself. Once the blessing comes out, that's what it is. You're blessed. If he said he's going to do it for you, it's going to happen. But don't think that you can't be blessed and cursed at the same time. Just because life is going good for you, that doesn't mean that the things that you've done in your past won't eventually come to haunt you. And so for Balaam, he's sitting here, he's dealing with it. He's dealing with this in a way, but when God said none has beheld iniquity in Yaakov, neither has one seen perverseness in Yisrael, not enough to destroy them. So I don't care how you feel about them. I don't care what you think you're going to do to them. After I made my promise to Abraham, this is how it's going to work. It reads,
God who brought them forth out of Egypt is for them like the lofty horns of the wild ox. For there is no enchantment with Yaakov, neither is there any divination with Yisrael.
Stop 1 second, and I'm going to let him read. In the middle of him blessing Israel, God is now proclaiming Balaam's death sentence. For there is no enchantment with Yaakov, neither is there any divination with Yisrael. The princes of Moab, what did they come with in their hand? The rewards of divination. He's letting them know right there that the reason why they can't be destroyed is because they don't have these things with them. Okay. That while we're learning, we understand that divination is not part of our practice. Mysticism is not a part of our practice.
Right.
Luck.
That's right.
Calling on the ancestors. Praising the dead. Those are all things that are not a part of how we serve God.
That's right.
It's from right here when God said there's no enchantment with Yaakov, he was letting Balaam know, you're going to die shortly.
Ancestors is already dead.
Because you should have in your practice understood, let me get rid of this. Now I'm just going to let y'all know, little foreshadowing here. We're going to see that at a certain point, he kept picking up his parable when he wanted to bless the children of Israel, right? He's going to make a change eventually. It goes on to read.
Now was it said of Yaakov and of Israel, what hath God wrought? Behold, the people that rise up as a lioness, and as a lion doth he lift himself up. He shall not lie down until he eat of the prey, and drink the blood of the slain.
Come on.
And Balak said unto Balaam, neither curse them at all, nor bless
What are
them
you
at all.
doing? Hey, listen, don't do nothing. I don't want you to curse them. Don't bless them. Don't do anything. You know, like, I didn't need to pay you and bring you here for all of this. I asked you to curse them, and here you are blessing them. And matter of fact, you telling me great things that I didn't even know about them at all. Come on and read.
But Balaam answered and said unto Balak, told not I thee, saying, all that Jehovah speaketh that I must do? And Balak said unto Balaam, come now, I will take thee into another place. Peradventure it will please God that thou mayest curse me them from thence. Balak took Balaam unto the top of Peor, that looketh down upon the desert. And Balaam said unto Balak, build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 bullocks and 7 rams. And Balak did as Balaam had said, and offered up a bullock and a ram on every altar.
Now I want y'all to understand about this place, Mount Peor. Historical importance to the Midianites. This is where they served their God.
Right.
He took him to this mountain in particular because he was like, this is where our God has his power. Go up here and serve, but before, and I'm just trying to tell you how this goes, before, Balaam was like, all right, come here, build me this, here, do that. Okay, now he's like, no. The equivalent of them saying, come into my church. Here, now bless the people. Here, now curse the people. Here, now say what you have to say. He's taking him to the top of Mount Peor, where around him, we presume that he was the only one there giving offerings. But Baal Peor was a major false god in that country. There were other offerings going on in that place, and God led him there for a reason. God led him there to let all the other Midianites know that Yehovah, that he was the true God, and that no matter what you felt about doing to his people, that they would be blessed. It goes on to read.
Chapter 24, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And when Balaam saw that it pleased Jehovah to bless Yisrael, he went not as the other times to meet with enchantment.
Change your course. Come on.
But he set his face toward the wilderness.
Change your course.
And
Come
Balaam
on.
lifted up his eyes, and he saw Yisrael dwelling tribe by tribe,
And the Spirit of God came upon him.
He took up his parable and said,
Right? Come on.
the saying of Balaam, the son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eye is open.
Why? Come on.
The saying of him who heareth the words of Yah, who seeth the visions of the Almighty.
Falling down.
Yet with open eyes.
Let's talk about that for a second. Because the reality is that he's saying he's falling down, he's flat on his face, but he understands everything that's happening now.
Amen.
The Spirit of God now came upon him. I'm telling you that sometimes God can be speaking to you in your heart, and sometimes you're running away from it because there's something that you've learned in the past that tells you don't listen to it for too long. And I'm telling you that the reason why he changed course and he didn't go to enchantments this time is because now he finally realized that I don't need all of those things. He finally realized that God was going to speak to him, whether he picked up his enchantments, whether he had a crystal ball, whether he had a parable, whatever it was, God actually was with him and he was answering with him. And so this time he faced the wilderness. This time, well, while he didn't even realize it, but realized it, he was facing the tent of meeting, where the Ark of the Covenant stood, where the tablets stood, where the pillar of fire stood. And he understood that that's where God was dwelling. Because God shouldn't only dwell in a building, God shouldn't only dwell in a tent, but God should dwell inside of you. But you have to feel that. And you have to want that in your life. And if you don't want that the way Balaam wanted it at this time, it will never be for you. You can rely on luck. You can rely on coincidence. You can stop and say, you know, this rabbit's foot, this penny, this family heirloom that my ancestors have passed down, all is what allows me to do what I do in life and to be successful the way that we're successful. Or you can ultimately stop and say, as long as I have the Lord's statutes, commandments, and judgments of God with me, and as long as I live in those precepts, God will bless me. And I'm telling you that because now he's sitting down and he's like, I thought I understood before. I really thought that, you know, as long as I follow what God told me to do, this is what this is. But really, getting a blessing from God comes from him. I just have to believe. I just have to have faith. Come on.
How good you are thy tents, O Yaakov, thy dwellings, O Yisrael. As valleys stretched out, as gardens by the riverside, as aloes planted of Yehovah, as cedars beside the waters. Water shall flow from his branches, and his seed shall be in many waters. And his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted.
Come on.
God who brought him forth out of Egypt is for him like the lofty horns of the wild ox. He shall eat up the nations that are his adversaries, and shall break their bones in pieces, and pierce them through with his arrows. He couched, he lay down as a lion, and as a lioness, who shall rouse him up? Blessed be everyone that blesseth thee, and cursed be everyone that curseth thee.
And that's how it works. And that's how it works. But do you see this now? It's almost like he's not even talking to Balak anymore. It's almost like he's not talking to Balak anymore. Blessed be everyone that blesseth thee. Who's thee? Who's you? Who was this message eventually going to be for? The children of Israel. And so that's how you can find yourself in instances where you see people doing the work of God, even though they don't know who God is. That's how you can know God, and you walk in and you're like, wait a minute, I was just talking about that with Chief Meckel, but he wasn't there. He doesn't even know God. How does he know what we were talking about God? Because that's how God works. That's how God moves in our life. That's how God lets us know and confirms for us exactly what we were thinking. Am I doing the right thing? I'm going to send him this person, and I'm going to allow him to see that the conversation that he was having in this day and this time, and even though nobody else was there to hear it, that person is going to confirm it, to allow him to have strength in serving God. That's how Balaam was able to put down his parable. Because now he had enough proof to stop and say, I don't need this anymore. And so when I talk about our culture as a people, and as we begin to change, we need to learn to have that type of, we need to learn how to rely on God on that level. That as we see the different things happening with us, that we know we don't need to rely on anybody out there. We don't need to think that we can't survive unless somebody else is doing something for us. As long as we have God in our life, we'll be able to survive. But it's for us to believe that in our hearts. Here it is.
And Balak's anger was kindled against Balaam, and he smote his hands together. And Balak said unto Balaam, I called thee to curse mine enemies.
And behold,
thou hast altogether blessed them these 3 times. Therefore now flee thou to thy place. I thought to promote thee unto great honor. But lo, Jehovah hath kept thee back from honor.
Look at that now. Now you bring God into the situation. So down he told them from the beginning. This is what it was. I just want y'all to understand, because something is going to happen here. Balaam wants this money. He's going to advise them what to do.
Right.
He's going to sit down and he's going to let them know. It's like, hey, listen, you're going about this all wrong. I told you about how you fight. Fighting fire with fire. Remember I told you in the beginning? It's like, you're trying to attack their God. Don't attack their God. You can't win. What you got to do is get them away from their God. And then you can be successful. That's what's happening with us. They're trying to get us away from our God. We're blessed, but the longer we keep ourselves away from God, is the more that they'll be able to do what they want to do. Come on.
And Balaam said unto Balak, spoke I not also to thy messengers that thou didst send unto me, saying, if Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the word of Jehovah, to do either good or bad of mine own mind.
Right.
But Jehovah speaketh, that will I speak. And now, behold, I go unto my people,
Here comes the advice.
and I will announce to thee what this people shall do to thy people in the end of days. And he took up his parable.
Hold on. In the end of days. Did y'all hear that? I'm going to let y'all know the end of days, when the time shall be changing. What's going on out there is not going to be forever. The same way it was going on with the Midianites is not going to be forever. That end of days terminology that he's letting him know, the way that you're doing things right now will not always exist this way. Right. It reads.
And he took up his parable and said, the saying of Balaam the son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eye is open, the saying of him who heareth the words of God, and who knoweth the knowledge of the Most High, who seeth the vision of the Almighty falling down yet with open eyes. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not now. There shall step forth a star out of Yaakov, and a scepter shall rise out of Yisrael. And shall smite through the corners of Moreh, and break down all the sons of Shem. And Edom shall be a possession. Seir also, even his enemy shall be a possession, while Yisrael doeth valiantly. Now Yaakov shall one have dominion, and shall destroy the remnant from the city. And he looked on Amalek and took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his end shall come to destruction. And he looked on the Kenite and took up his parable and said, though firm be thy dwelling place, and though thy nest be set in a rock, nevertheless Cain shall be wasted. How long? Ashur shall carry thee away captive. And he took up his parable and said, alas, who shall live after God hath appointed him? A ship shall come from the coast of Kittim, and it shall afflict Ashur and shall afflict Eber, and he also shall come to destruction.
Prophecy. You want to know what's going to happen? You really want to know what's going to happen with these people? This is how mighty they are. Right. This is really what's going to happen with them. And I want us to understand this as God talks to us. 18. And Edom shall be a possession. But we see in the wilderness that we tried to go through Edom's land. And what happened? They came out and they met us with aggression, right? They told us, it's like, we'll buy our own water, we just want this. And they were like, no, go around. Because this was the prophecy that eventually they would be repaid for what they did to us and how they would do things. The same thing with Assyria. He's sitting there, he's giving a prophecy to them to let them know about who the major players in the game would be later on. Assyria, Edom, Midian, all those people. Agag. Remember Agag later on, right? We hear these things, and as we hear it, we're like, what's going on here? But Balaam's eyes were open to what was going to happen. But he wasn't talking to the children of Israel at this time. He goes on to read.
And Balaam rose up and went and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way. Chapter 25. And Yisrael abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit harlotry with the daughters of Moab.
How does that work? How does that work? I'm going to spend my last minutes on it. How does that work? Thousands of people were dead. People, they claimed Moses killed the people of the Lord. They were ready to go back to Egypt. They were doing all different. How did Moab come into play? I'm going to tell you how it came into play. Us. So Danny, Balaam told him, he said, listen, before I go, listen, I know what you wanted, but I'm just trying to tell you. We're here at Peor. These are spiritual people. These are God-fearing people. Bring your women out and make your ceremony to be part of their ceremony. Just combine the two. Let them believe that it's cultural. Let them believe that, this is what God wants. And God will be angry with them, and he'll kill them for you. Now, the first thing you stop and you say, you'd be like, nobody could fall for harlotry like that. It's hook, line, and sinker, right? It's like, how do you find yourself at that point where you automatically go and you say, oh, harlotry is there? But if you believe it's the will of God, because listen to key terminology that people use. If you believe it's the will of God, then yeah, people will do it. That's why God is always warning us of associating things with him. Because he knows the moment that we start doing that, the next thing you know, we got all types of things involved with us that we shouldn't be involved in.
Right.
All types of things. That you're like, where did this come from? And where did that come from? That's why we're always warning you about involving yourself in the culture of the nations. Independence Day. That falls today. Labor Day. It's called Labor Day, but that is one of the biggest times when you see harlotry going on. For those who have celebrated or found themselves witnessing what happens on Labor Day. You sit down and you're like, how do you call it Labor Day, but you find yourself on that day half naked, wearing feathers and scantily clad, glitter, and have your skin shining with oils. This is what we see happening. It's the same type of thing. And I'm telling you that the minute that they committed harlotry is the same thing that I was telling y'all in the beginning. Who's supposed to protect the nation? The men. And so who did they attack? The men. By what? Harlotry. And obviously, once the men are attacked and once this starts happening, and we're going to talk about what the plague could or could not have been in a second, but the reality is that when you're at your weakest point, you ain't protecting nothing. And so, if we remember what Shimon and Levi, what the sons of Yaakov did when they went and took their sister Dinah and violated her, what did they tell the men of the city to do? Circumcise themselves.
Okay.
They knew they would be weak. As soon as they circumcised themselves and they were being affected in that area, what did they do? They attacked them. They killed them. Read.
And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods. And the people did eat and bow down to their gods.
The false gods. Come on.
And Yisrael joined himself unto the Baal of Peor.
In a moment. Come on.
And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Yisrael. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, take all the chiefs of the people, and hang them up unto Yahweh in the face of the sun, that the fierce anger of Yahweh may turn away from Yisrael.
Does anybody believe that Moses co-signed on this? Not at all. But the problem was, in dealing with Moses, no matter how many people died, it was still in the people's heads that they could do whatever they want. They didn't want leadership. They didn't want to have to listen to somebody. They didn't want to have to work for their blessing. They wanted to only reap the benefits of a land flowing with milk and honey, but they didn't want to put in the work to actually make sure that they got what they were deserving of. That's all they wanted to do. They just wanted to march into a land that's flowing with milk and honey. I'm here. Where's my house? Where's my gold? Matter of fact, where's my golden crucible with the expensive diamonds going around the brim? That's my cup. As a matter of fact, engrave Moreh in it so that you know it's mine. That's what we want. That's how we want to live, and that's what we thought is acceptable before God. God blesses you according to the works you put in, not according to the words that come out of your mouth. And so, whether you believe that you want to be happy and live life happy, harlotry ain't it for Israel. Never has been, never will be. They went and they started committing harlotry. Then they joined themselves unto Baal Peor, the Lord of the opening, which part of that practice of Baal Peor was that after they did their service, they went, which was within a lot of Eastern practices, that they went and had an orgy. And they believed that within that practice, that when they had that, after that happened, that a blessing will come forth of life to have children. And so that's why it happened like that. It's like that with Baal Peor. It was like that with Molech and them burning their firstborn children. And it was like that with something else that I'll get back to y'all with that another time with it. And so God was upset. And God had reason to be upset. Because the same way Balaam didn't get it, that after the 3 times that the ass wouldn't do what he wanted it to do, the Most High God is like, how many more people have to die? And so now God is telling Moses to hang the people up. Hang them up unto the Lord in the face of the sun. But then we see a law that tells us if we do that, what we're supposed to do in Deuteronomy, right? Don't, if you hang a person, don't let them stay there until the sun goes down. Now we see it being practiced. Every 40 years, then later on in Deuteronomy, and it's not later on because this is all happening simultaneously, we're just learning of the history, that now he wants people to know, when you see somebody hanging from a tree, that lets you know exactly how God was upset with you. I say that because our history of us in this country is us hanging from the tree. That strange fruit. Yes, we should be upset with our captives, but we should be upset with ourselves about how we didn't serve God the way He wanted us to serve Him. About us giving ourselves to another God instead of us giving our allegiance to Him. And so when we see this, God is like, this is what y'all decided to do? All right, this is how this is going to happen. Read.
And Moshe said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye everyone his men that have joined themselves unto the Baal of Peor. Behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brother a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moshe, and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, while they were weeping at the door of the tent.
You have got to be like incredibly stupid to allow this to happen like this. You sit down, there's people hanging, people are praying, and you still, the only thing on your mind is sex. When that happens, I'm just going to be honest with you. When that happens, you deserve to die. You have actually allowed, your mind is perverted to the sense that we could be sitting down praying and you're thinking, this is what I need to do. Those people don't need to be in the house of the Lord. Finish it up.
And when Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from the midst of the congregation and took a spear in his hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the chamber and thrust both of them through. the
One
man
time.
of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel, and those that died by the plague were 24,000. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. That's all I want us to understand this. Listen. Somebody can pronounce the greatest blessing on the world on you. That does not mean that we're worthy. That means somebody within our nation is worthy, but that does not mean that we're worthy. And so that as we think about the plague, even though Balak wanted us cursed, 24,000 people still died. And there are those of us of which I believe that that plague that the Most High God sent was more of those sexually transmitted diseases. Diseases that as they went into those women, those were not good women, those were sick women. Those, the same way that the plague of the COVID-19 is amongst us and it attacks your immune system immediately. And certain people can be asymptomatic and certain people can live from it. That was one of those plagues that as we see in these days and times, that God caused the people to understand about the harlotries that they commit. And I say that to us in these days and times as we serve God. Don't find yourself on the wrong end of the plague. Don't find yourself on the wrong end of between the blessing and the curse. Allow God to bless you. Give God the glory that's due unto his name. And make sure that as you serve God, that you understand that there's a righteous obligation that we all have in serving him. Hoping and praying that you got something out of what I said, and that the Most High God found these words acceptable to be spoken before his people. As I bid you all in the time of our forefathers, Shabbat Shalom again.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, the Most High God, for the life of Moreh, Yeftahk, and Dahn, for the lesson that he brought forth today, the words and the inspiration of this day. Also, I just want to point out to our people online and our people that are at home that, there's a thing with the Shabbat day where the Most High God told us that we have to keep it holy. There's also portions in the Tanakh that said make a difference between the holy, the unholy, the unclean, and the clean. And the Most High God also tells us to be holy, for I, your God, am holy.
Right.
So I say all this to say this. I know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is making a speech today. Right? It's supposed to be this great speech for everyone to listen to. I like to listen to the minister as much as everyone else. But there's a separation between common, and holy. And we have to understand that the totality of the Shabbat day is holy. So the minister could wait till sundown to take a listen to.
That's right.
Tomorrow
Yeah.
to listen to. Not today while this day is going on. The minister could be put on the side, right, until the sun goes down. Understand so that you don't fall yourself at fault and wanting before the creator of heaven and earth. And cause Aaron's sons their lives for mixing in common things with that which was holy. So remember holiness all the time, especially when it comes to the Shabbat day. And in the portion of Leviticus 19 where it speaks about be ye holy, for I, your God, am holy. I believe the very next verse it says, remember to keep the Shabbat, to honor your parents, to respect your parents, and to keep the Shabbat day holy. So the importance of the Shabbat day and your parents is on the same level. Because they breaking both of them or disrespecting your parents could cost you your what? Life. So let's keep that in mind. Let's understand that as much as we love Louis Farrakhan and he speaks for black people, although he might differ in ideology, right? But he speaks for the progress of black people. Understand that this day is holy and that the Most High God is above any one man or any one woman. Amen?
Amen.
Hallelujah. Let us close out this portion of the day by reciting the words that the Most High God gave unto Moshe to give unto our Aaron and his sons to bless the children of Yisrael. Hoping and praying that on the conclusion of this portion of the day, that the Most High God look down upon each and every one of us and grant us a blessing. Wa dabir Yehovah el Moshe lemor, dabir el Aharon wa el Benah lemor, ko tabaku et bnei Yisrael lemor lahem. And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe, saying, speak unto Aharon and unto his sons, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Yisrael. Ye shall say unto them, Yivareka Yehovah Yishmareka, Ya'ir Yehovah Panaoleka Wikuneka, Yisa Yehovah Panaoleka Yasemleka, Shalom. May Yehovah bless thee and keep thee. May Yehovah make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. May Yehovah lift up his countenance upon thee and may he grant thee peace. Hallelujah. We will return at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for all those online. Thank you once again for tuning in to us. We really appreciate all of your support, all of your the effort that you make to tune in with us. Please excuse us for the view that we have today. That's on me. I forgot the main bag with the cameras and the laptop and all that stuff. So please forgive me. May the Most High God bless you all. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.